So we're joined here today by Sophie Billington, director of Five Too Many, the newest short film by Colossal Pictures. So Sophie, welcome. Let's start off with why audience feedback is so important when producing a film.
Well, audience feedback is incredibly important. It gives you an external view of your product, and obviously customer satisfaction is essential to us as a film company, as it is with all. People without an invested interest in the product need to watch it and feedback, as we're not just trying to appeal to our own producers, but the mass market as well. We wanted to create something as similar to short films already out there as we could, so containing all the necessary conventions.
I see.
But we still wanted to create something unique and interesting. So it's crucial to collect feedback at different stages of production so that we can take on board this feedback and continue on in production in the light of this.
Oh yeah. So what stages were there in terms of gaining audience feedback?
Well, the first audience research we conducted was after our animatic screening, which was our still picture storyboard.
Okay.
We felt it was essential to take all of this feedback into account, as this was our first screening to a sizable audience that wasn't just our own team. It helped us to give us a clearer view of what to do in our filming. This feedback from our animatic screening definitely helped us, and as a large percentage of the feedback was exceptionally positive, it left us with a clear picture of what we wanted to do.
Oh, that's good. Were there any questions you felt you in particular needed to be asked? Like what you wanted to know more of?
Well, we had an important one that we wanted to ask, and it was just simply, did you understand the plot?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's always what you want for the audience to be able to understand the storyline. Otherwise, they just wouldn't be engaged with the film. But for us, we felt it was really important because in a 5-minute film, as you know, it's difficult to include extreme levels of detail, especially with us undertaking quite a complex storyline.
Were there any people that didn't understand,
Yeah, there was a couple. All but 2 returned understood the plot, and the 2 that didn't were just slightly unclear on the counting sections, as they were unsure if the man's disorder led him to count for 5 seconds or to count
Yeah, it
just
could be
5
quite
times.
confusing.
Yeah, it could be. So this is something that we then wanted to rectify in our final piece, and the audience feedback helped us in that. Otherwise, we would probably have just left it the way it was.
Okay. So was there any in particular critical feedback which you felt helped constructively?
Yeah, well, the most critical feedback we received after our first animatic screening was with regards to the voiceover. A few people just felt that it lacked emotion. This is something we very much took on board, and that said, the voiceover was only ever a temporary measure. So for our final cut, we used the voice of our female actor, Ella Lamprell, who a lot of your viewers might be familiar with, and through her, the emotion and feeling was portrayed very much more clearly.
It's her acting debut, isn't it?
Yeah. Another slight query after our animatic screening was the cause of Rob's obsession with the number 5. A couple of people felt we hadn't introduced the disorder as successfully as we could have, and this is something which we wanted to amend.
So what did you change? What did you do to make people understand?
Well, we decided to create a new scene at the start of our film, so it was a complete new scene to us, which we never planned in the initial pre-production. But we wanted to make it really clear that Rob suffered from a form of OCD, and we thought that an effective way to show this was to have him himself researching his condition as though he had just been diagnosed, so it's almost like he is learning at the same time as the audience is. This immediately clarifies to the audience the issue, and therefore the rest of the story will just make so much more sense and be much more engaging for the audience.
Wow, you would never have known that you hadn't planned that or scripted that scene
I know.
originally.
Well, that's the thing about audience feedback. It just gives you a new insight into what people need to see and want to see.
Yeah.
So with the addition of this short scene, which we didn't initially plan, the initial first scene, we had a couple walking through a park, and this just became quite irrelevant, and with that, the help of our audience feedback, we made the decision to cut this scene and replace it with this more effective scene, which we felt was much more crucial and interesting for the plot and for the audience, really.
Just proves, doesn't it, how criticism is always helpful.
Oh, absolutely. Constructive criticism is so essential. Obviously, we'd all like to just be told how amazing our film is across the board, but at the end of the day, what really helps are pointers and advice as to what can make it better.
Absolutely. So what was the next stop?
So after our animatic screening, we continued on in the production process, incorporating these small suggestions that were made. And once we completed our rough cut, we showed our piece again to gain more conclusive feedback. 85% of people answered yes to "Did you like it?" and obviously we were really happy with that. We received good feedback in all areas of our product. It was across the board with editing, continuity, sounds and acting, and that helps with our fantastic actors, as well as the story being described as interesting and entertaining.
That is really good then.
Yeah, you can't really ask for more with that.
No. Was anyone confused about the plot then?
No, we were really pleased at that no one said they were confused in a bad way at our film's expense. And similarly, no one felt that there were any scenes that didn't particularly work or were disliked. And obviously we were really pleased with this feedback, as to know the audience enjoys your film and is not left with any negative emotions afterwards is really a great feeling. It's what all filmmakers want to achieve, really.
So after the rough cut, were there any changes, anything you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, there was one change we did make as a result of our rough cut screening, and that was actually to cut out the sound in our final scene.
Oh, right.
Yeah, during our screening, the sound cut out, and this was actually a technical error, but to our surprise, a lot of the audience felt that it worked better than it would have done with sound. So we were really shocked at that, as we didn't think that that would be the case, but we decided to take on board these comments, and we agreed that the exclusion of sound made this pinnacle scene more dramatic and effective, and therefore we made the decision to go with the audience feedback. So sometimes technical faults are really for the best.
Yeah, that is good then. Well, I'm sure that will be reassuring to all our budding filmmakers out there. You hear that, guys? That glitch in your film might just win you the Oscar. Thanks, Sophie. It's been a pleasure. And all the best with 5 Too Many coming to the cinemas on July the 5th. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.